So, when I was pondering this subject years ago when I wrote the Lazarus lectures, I came across around the same time, and it seemed very suitable, and it still is, the story of Christ in the wilderness. And when Satan thought that'd be a good time to hang out and chat. So he just said, "Hey, you look like you're on vacation. I thought I'd jump in your suitcase and come with you." Thanks. Thanks. I left everyone else behind and you joined me. We compare what we've been doing in season 4 to a Christ-like journey into the wilderness, a time to be alone in fasting and prayer and attempting to work very hard to connect with God. What happens to Christ when he tries to spend time alone with God? Satan shows up. So it wouldn't be that weird if the same thing happened for us. So this lesson is based on a application to our lives of the 3 conversations that Satan had with Christ in the wilderness, and see if we can figure out what we can learn from it to catch him. Here's what he tried on Satan. How can I apply that to me? Here's what he tried on Satan here. Here's what Christ's response was. How can I apply that to me? Let us reflect. Let us look at what we need to see if we are catching Satan's torments and fighting through those battles successfully. When I experience emotional or relational hunger, loneliness, something like that, do I instinctively or intentionally reach upward to God before turning outward to people or distractions, including turning to my spouse for reassurance, encouragement, or attention? It is normal in marriage to feel I would like human connection. I am lonely. I look at my finger and there's a ring on it. That means I have a spouse. That means I can reach to my spouse for human connection. Hello, spouse, let's have human connection, and step on a banana peel, hit your head on a rock, and that didn't work out so good. I understand that it's really enjoyable and nice to have a human being be available for human connection, but when they are dealing with their own issues, either small or large or in between, there's a chance they won't be available. We have been told by our prophets, the ancient prophets told us this first, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Others said, "Do not rely upon the arm of flesh." It was never intended for a human being to be more reliable to meet your needs than God. It's nice when a human can be there. Some of them are sometimes there, some of them are not there at all, some of them are getting better at it. We don't want you to go to bed psychologically and emotionally starving every night. Neither does your Heavenly Father, so let's have a full meal with Him when humans aren't able to supply it. Number 2, do I recognize the difference between legitimate emotional hunger and tormenting thoughts from Satan designed to push me into fear, which leads to controlling behaviors? What are controlling behaviors in this context? Let's do some clarification. Reminding the other person that they are inadequate. Encouraging when encouragement is not being received. I know most of you don't lecture, you just explain. Explaining again. That's not a lecture, right? That's just being helpful to someone who's not listening. Isn't it fascinating that it's built that way? It comes into the brain that way, like, I'm being helpful. And we don't wait for children to ask for assistance. We don't wait for children to ask to be educated. So if you spend a lot of time with children, you get really fast at just teaching. And you just teach. And so that's normal. That's to be expected. Because if you waited for them to say, "Mom, please help me be more wise," you never get there. So you can accidentally put the husband in the same category of, hey, if I have a thought of something they could learn, I might as well say it out loud. But sometimes we're not ready to receive it.
If you're finding this video helpful or want to help us reach others in need, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really supports our channel. Thank you.
How often do I pause to discern whether my emotional weather, sunny, stormy, hurricane, or mood, is influencing how I communicate? In most cases, we're very much aware of theirs. Are we self-checking? Am I sunshine? Am I a storm? Am I cloudy? How is it impacting my communication? I've had some women say, "But I need to be a hurricane for him to listen to me." Is he actually listening to you, or he just reacts more? Now, I want to join you in some frustration on this topic, but I want you to know that you are in good company when someone does not listen to you. You are in the same category as Jesus, because people didn't listen to him either. When women are told you have a right to be heard, the problem with that concept is so did Jesus have a right to be heard. That puts you in a somewhat powerless position that the other person decides whether or not you get to feel satisfied because they're not capable of listening to you right now or understanding you or comprehending you. You have a right to have thoughts. You have a right to find people who will hear you, but that doesn't mean the person you're standing next to is psychologically capable of taking you seriously right now, and they may choose to be like unto a large population that put nails in Jesus' hand and put him on a cross. Okay, that has nothing to do with what's wrong with you. While we're using our spiritual education to learn how to be like Jesus, let's be like him psychologically as well, which means if you're going to hold your values and be who you want to be, a percentage of the population will reject you. And you don't get to pick whether or not they love you, any more than Jesus gets to pick who loves him. I met with one of you and your husband earlier this week, and we were going over marital mission statements together. And she was reading his, and we would pause every once in a while and go, how do you feel about that? She's like, I'm okay. But she'd read through it before, and she knew there was a hand grenade hiding in there about what his vision for things was. And so when we got to physical intimacy, she read one, and she's all, I'm just not going to be like that. I like what he wants. So imagine the apostles come to Christ and say, well, we thought you would be like this, or we want you to be like this. And Christ said, I have no intention of storming Jerusalem with soldiers and killing all the Romans. That's not part of my plan. I'm not doing that. And I'm sad that you were hoping for that. Not quite sure how you got the idea that I was going to do that, but that would be sad. That's disappointing for you. I want to encourage all of you, if the person you're in a relationship with has created some kind of imaginary idea of what you should be like, and you have no intention of being like that, it's not even in your value system, to say to them, I'm sad that you're never going to have that if you're going to be in a relationship with me, because I have no intention of becoming that person. You won't have that if you stay married to me, and I get it if you don't want to stay married to me, if I'm not going to be that person. I mean, think about it, if a guy came to you and said, I really like looking at pornography, and I plan to have it be part of my life, and I'm sad if that's not okay with you. You go, I'm sad too, because I choose not to be married to someone who's okay with that. And so if someone's asking you to be somebody that you have no intention of being, it's absolutely appropriate to hold your identity and say, that must be sad for you if you really want that. If you're going to be in a relationship with me, I will never be doing that for you. I will never be that person for you. Because I know I'm not even trying to be. And so now they have to make a choice. Do they want to let go of that? Do they want to take a second look at it and go, maybe it's inappropriate for me? So the apostles, they had to look at it and say, was it inappropriate for me? Was it wrong for me to think that he would come into Jerusalem with a bunch of soldiers and kill the Romans? And they're all, wait, let's double check our scriptures. Oh, it actually doesn't say he's going to do that. We made that up. You know, a lot of the media that you ladies have to deal with is these artificial women that these men are told about that don't exist, and you're supposed to be like them. So ladies, instead of arguing about it, just declare it with some grieving. You know, if someone had a dream for something their whole lives and it's not going to happen, that's sad. But that's why you want to go over your identity, your purpose, and your mission for 12 weeks to double check, triple check, quadruple check, and make sure you love everything in it multiple times, and you know what you have no intention of being flexible on.